I have some good news and some bad news for you. First, the bad news. We tend to lose as much as 3 to 5% of muscle mass per decade after age 30. The muscle-building hormone testosterone also drops drastically after age 40. And as if that weren't enough, we tend to get tendon problems and feel stiffness throughout our body if we don't treat them correctly at a young age, sometimes even earlier than 30. Now for the good news. Well, Harvard found a solution for that. Harvard says lifting weights is one of the best things you can do to keep the muscle you have and even build back some of what aging takes away. But that doesn't mean you can just lift random weights and never lose muscle as you get older. Harvard points out an interesting path to follow that every man should know. For example, how long and even how fast we should lift, but more on that later. This path also depends a lot on what you lift, because, Harvard says, free weights like dumbbells, kettlebells, and barbells are often better for building muscle than machines. Take a kettlebell, for example. The weight sits off to one side, which means your stabilizer muscles have to work harder just to keep it under control. And honestly, that's one of the reasons I like kettlebells so much. But Harvard isn't saying machines are bad, they're useful too. The research says you can even switch between free weights and machines depending on the exercise and the muscle you're training. So don't ditch machines tomorrow, especially if they're working for you. But there was one thing in this research that really caught my attention: the leg rule, the magic number, and tempo. Harvard also puts extra emphasis on training your legs, and I know nobody likes it, but it's getting extremely crucial. Hear me out. It says men should pay special attention to their quads, hamstrings, glutes, and calves, especially as they get older. But why? Because you use them for almost everything. Getting out of a chair, climbing stairs, sex. I mean, pretty much every daily movement. So when these muscles stay strong, everyday life is easier. And stronger legs also makes it easier to get stronger everywhere else. Now for this, Harvard recommends compound exercises that train multiple muscles at once. Things like squats and lunges, for example. They're some of the best exercises for building strong legs. And here's a fun fact that wasn't even part of the Harvard research. Lower quadricep strength has been linked to a 51 to 65% higher risk of earlier death in older adults, even after adjusting for things like age, body size, and physical activity. So, training your legs doesn't just help you keep your muscle as you get older, it may even help you stick around a little longer. But now, let me tell you something even more important, because the free weights, the leg work, none of it really matters unless you get one thing right first. How much weight should you lift and how many reps should you do? That's kind of important, right? Now, Harvard actually has a pretty clear answer. It says older men should do fewer reps with heavier weights, assuming their goal is to build the most muscle. Around 8 reps per exercise for 3 total sets seems to be the sweet spot. But if you have joint pain or limited mobility, just go a little lighter and do more reps instead. Now you might be wondering, why 8 reps? A set of 8 taken close to failure is usually heavy enough to recruit your biggest, fastest growing muscle fibers. But it's still light enough that you can get plenty of quality work done across the whole workout. I know I say this example a lot, but it's just a good analogy in my opinion. It's like carrying grocery bags. If they're too light, you barely notice them. If they're too heavy, well, good luck getting them to the kitchen in one trip. 8 reps is kind of that sweet spot. Anyways, now, let me tell you my favorite part of this research, because this is what really makes it so unique: the tempo. Harvard recommends using a 7-second tempo. Here's what that looks like: 3 seconds to lift the weight, a 1-second pause, then 3 seconds to lower it. You also want enough weight that the last few reps feel tough. If you can't get at least 8 reps, the weight is probably too heavy. And once 8 reps starts feeling comfortable, it's time to add a little more weight, because muscles only get stronger when you keep giving them a reason to. And what's interesting is another study backs this up too. A meta-analysis found that rep speeds anywhere from about half a second to 8 seconds produce similar muscle growth as long as you're training close to failure. But once you go really slow, like over 10 seconds per rep, muscle growth actually drops because you have to use much lighter weights. But here's something just as important. None of this really matters if you're not training often enough. The 3 rules that actually make it stick. So here's what Harvard recommends. Train at least twice a week. Stick it out for 4 to 6 weeks and you should start noticing real strength gains. That's what the research found. But if twice a week just isn't happening sometimes, don't worry. Another study in older adults found that even training once a week can still build real strength and muscle with less soreness. So yeah, twice a week is the goal, but once a week is still a whole lot better than doing nothing. Now there's one more thing you can't skip: rest. Harvard says to wait at least 48 hours before training the same muscle again, and there's a good reason for that. Your muscles stay busy repairing and rebuilding for about 24 to 48 hours after a workout, but there's one last rule you should follow. Always raise the bar. Your muscles only keep growing if you keep giving them a little more to handle over time. Imagine it like turning up the volume. If you leave it on the same number, it doesn't magically get louder. And here's why this matters even more as you get older. But before that, I quickly want to mention thank you guys for over 1,000 downloads on my ebooks and for the great feedback. I'm really happy that I can help you no matter what situation you're in. I appreciate you guys. Anyways, back to the question. Older muscles need a bigger reason to grow than they did years ago. So if your workouts never get harder, sooner or later your progress will stop, and honestly, it usually happens faster than it does when you're younger. And there is still one thing that matters a lot in this research. It says, get yourself a trainer, someone who checks your form and builds a plan around you. And this isn't just Harvard saying it. A 2025 study found that people who trained with a coach gained real muscle, about 1.4 kilograms in just 10 weeks. The people who only followed an app also gained something, experience, but not much muscle. And to be fair, it makes sense. A trainer isn't giving you secret exercises nobody else knows. He's just standing there so you can't cheat your way through the set. That alone makes your workouts more effective. But if you can't afford a good trainer, then you can skip this part until or unless you are motivated enough to work on your muscles. Now remember what I said earlier, lifting weights is one of the best ways to keep or even build muscle as you age. But that's only one part. The other big one, according to Harvard, is protein, and they go into a lot of detail about it. The number almost no fitness video tells you. If you're sedentary, you need about 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight each day. Basically, someone who's not very physically active. But if your goal is building muscle, aim closer to 1.2 grams per kilogram. For a 175-pound man, that's about 95 grams a day spread across your meals. And try to get around 20 to 40 grams within an hour after training. But here's the number that really surprised me. A younger adult can often trigger muscle growth with about 20 to 25 grams of protein in one meal. Older muscles usually need more, around 35 to 40 grams to get the same response. Scientists call this anabolic resistance. It's kind of like a door that used to open with a gentle push, and now you've got to lean into it a little. Same door, just a little more stubborn. Here are some numbers to make it easier. 3 ounces of chicken gives you about 24 grams. 8 ounces of plain Greek yogurt, about 23 grams. A cup of cooked lentils, around 18. 3 ounces of salmon, about 17. And 2 eggs, about 13 grams. So here's what I'd do. Instead of stressing over every single gram all day, just make sure 2 meals hit that higher protein target. It's simpler, and honestly, a lot easier to stick with. So now you've got both pieces, how to train and how to eat. Here's what that could look like starting tomorrow. Train at least twice a week. Have someone check your form, naturally, if you can afford it. But what's also effective is filming yourself and then analyzing your form after the training. I know some guys that are doing this and are still convincing me to do the same because it helped them so much. Use free weights or kettlebells when you can. Machines are completely fine if balance is an issue. Safety and consistency matter more than the equipment. And please don't skip leg day. Aim for 8 reps, 3 sets, and a controlled tempo. Use the heaviest weight you can handle safely, and give the same muscle at least 48 hours before training it again. Keep adding a little weight over time and write it down. Hit your protein target and focus on 2 solid meals instead of obsessing over every gram. So what do you do next? That's up to you. Not someday, tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.